What's up, everyone? My name is Edson Cardona, and I want to welcome you guys to the Let's Kick It series. On these episodes, we get the pleasure to be joined by professional athletes, get a little insight on their background and how they made it this far in their athletic careers. A conversation between athletes about their journeys leading them to success. I hope you guys enjoy. What's up, everyone? Hope y'all keeping safe with the COVID pandemic. My name is Edson Cardona, and I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Let's Kick It series. For all those who joined before, thank you for coming back. And for those who are joining for the first time, welcome. On this episode, I have the honor to introduce Delaney Bay Pridham. She was born in San Jose, but raised in Saratoga, played for plenty teams in San Jose like DeAnza Force Academy, Los Gatos Elite, ended up playing again with DeAnza Force, went to St. Francis High School, then ended up playing at Santa Clara University, and now currently playing in Iceland with EBF in the Pepsi Max League and the Premier League, where she scored 11 goals in 11 games. So without further ado, I would like to welcome DB. What's up, DB? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm
great.
Thank you
for having me.
Of course. I want to thank you for taking your time. I know you're in season right now out there, and so I just want to say thank you and welcome being part of the Let's Kick It series.
Of course. I'm happy to be here.
So I'll get started. Every athlete has their journey on whatever sport they played. And so if you can tell me a little bit about your soccer journey and how you began to play.
Yeah, I mean, from my first memory, like as a kid, I was surrounded by activities and sports. I grew up and I'm still growing up with two older brothers. So from the moment I can remember, I was being driven around from one field to the next, watching them play. So literally from the very beginning was when my journey began. From the moment I saw my brothers play soccer was when I decided, like, this is what I want to do. And that was the start of it all. And I actually started playing 2 years up so that I could get out there. And Jeff Beitcher helped me out, and he was my first coach, and he got me out there as soon as I could.
I mean, that's awesome having your two brothers being, like your way of your journey and how it became. And so were there any other sports that you played growing up, or was it just like soccer was your main focus because of your brothers, or was there anything else that you wanted to do besides that?
I think I was in t-ball. Yeah, I was in t-ball, baseball, softball, basketball, and tennis. And it was kind of just recreational. I was also playing obviously soccer at the same time, but soccer was my sport. And I was kind of just doing all the rest just to meet people, and parents throw kids in every sport and just to see which one they like the best. But I think I knew from the very beginning that soccer is my favorite. And it wasn't until middle school that I was like, okay, I'm done with the rest of these sports. My all focus is soccer. So those were the other sports that I did.
That's awesome, because as a kid, you tend to play all these different sports and try to figure out, what you want to do. And luckily for you, you knew at that young age, like, hey, like I can take this to the next level. And so for you now playing for DeAnza Force and, Los Gatos that we talked about a little bit, Elite. So how was that transitioning now for you on becoming, at a higher level, and then later on turning into, Santa Clara University? How was that transitioning now, knowing, okay, I can take this to another level. I can take it to the collegiate level. Of course, you played also in high school. So how did you know, okay, this is where I'm going to put, all the eggs in one basket?
Yeah. I think, as I said earlier, like having my two older brothers, they were pushing me to my max every day when I was out on the field. I did a bunch of private sessions with my older brothers, and being surrounded by people who were constantly supporting me and reminding me of my potential. I think that was something where I then was reaffirmed that, hey, like my dream is achievable. And if I put my eggs in a bunch of different baskets, like it's going to be hard to focus and accomplish a dream in this sport, this sport, or this sport. But at a young age, you kind of have to decide like what sport you want if the dream is to become a professional. And to have older brothers who were kind of already going through that process. My oldest brother is 7 years older than me. So to have knowledge of like what he went through, and he was kind of an educational figure for me, I was then able to follow a certain path, and to be surrounded by coaches who were pushing me to my max was also something I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, being able to have, someone that you can look up to, like your older brothers, and also the coaches, like you said, reminding you of the type of player that you are and the caliber that you have, definitely helps you throughout your journey as an athlete. And if you can tell me a little bit about that transition for you now, getting scholarships to like colleges or getting looks at, and a little bit about your experience on how it was to really like feel that like this college wants me, or even when you sign your letter of intent, or when you committed to Santa Clara University. I mean, how is that feeling for you? Because I know everyone has a different story on how they're getting looks at and getting scouted. So if you can tell me a little bit about that experience for you.
Yeah, I mean, being a part of DeAnza Force Academy with Jeff Beicher was great. One, because the club, the all-around club, is known nationwide, and for coaches, college coaches, to already know that your club is a top club, that helps a lot with being recruited. So and with connections, like Beicher knows a bunch of college coaches, and when he knows the potential in a player, he helps that player get to where they want to be. And I think it was 8th grade where we were getting recruited. This was in 2000 and, oh my gosh, I don't even remember, so long ago. But back when I was younger, like we started getting recruited super early. The rules were different. And I was being looked at along with my teammates in 8th grade. And that was kind of like, whoa, this is the real deal. Like a shock, in a sense of like, it's always a dream. Like I want to play collegiate soccer. I want to play for D1 school, and then I want to go to pro. But when that first process started where you're like, this is the real deal, I need to then start reaching out to college coaches. You prepare so many emails and reach out to so many college coaches before showcases. It's a lot. I remember being like having to handle that on top of school at such a young age and on top of soccer. But it was also just such a fun process. And my freshman year was when I actually started in communication, or the coaches started watching me from Santa Clara University. And Beicher had a connection obviously with Santa Clara, and I committed the beginning or middle of my sophomore year. So that was crazy. I got a phone call from Jerry Smith, and I was in contact with other schools as well. But I actually went to Santa Clara for an unofficial visit. I went to Stanford for an unofficial visit. And then other colleges looked out for me to come to an unofficial. But once I went to Santa Clara, I was like, this is it. This is where I'm going. I'm all in. And that was when I decided my sophomore year, I got on a call with him and I told Jerry that I'm ready to commit. And that was my verbal commitment to Santa Clara.
I mean, at a young age, like being able to already get recruited and getting talked to from colleges is an amazing, way to even start your career, and knowing like, hey, like I can really take this to another level. Like I can really put all of my efforts into this to grow as a player. And like you said, sophomore year, like already committing to a college, already seeing like, hey, like this is where I want to be and this is where I'm going to grow is amazing. And so for you, once you like we're going into the preseason at Santa Clara, I mean, if you can tell me a little bit about just like the few days like going into it, like how are you feeling, like knowing like, damn, like I'm here with sophomores, juniors, and seniors who have already been playing. I mean, how was that transition for you now, saying, okay, now it's time for me to shine, now I'm coming in as a freshman and I got to show everyone like, hey, I'm here to stay and I'm here to play.
Yeah, I think going in, I like obviously everyone is super nervous. I've grown up with a family that is very outgoing and social, so I didn't struggle as much with that. I met people and went out of my way to introduce myself to the team. I met them obviously on my official and unofficial, but just wanted to start to get to know girls a little bit more. And then once we were out on the pitch, it was like down to business. Like you're here to show yourself. And I was with 8 other freshmen, and we were all there to prove ourselves. And at the time it was like, oh my God, first practice, like I need to play my best. I need to show myself. This is all it or nothing. And I think when you look back on it, it's like, this is just the beginning of such a long journey. Like the first practice, yes, you want to be competitive. You want to show what you got, but there's so much along the journey that you have time to kind of build yourself into that. You have to be surrounded by an environment that is super welcoming, and Santa Clara did that for all of us freshmen. So we were able to play with each other before the coaches came in. And I think that's something that was super important for us, because it wasn't the first practice where you're playing with everyone, where the coaches are all eyes on you. We got to meet people, see how each other played, got comfortable with the team. And then a week or two later, then the coaches came in, because we came in early to do conditioning and then captain's practices and everything. So, I mean, it was super competitive from the very beginning. Santa Clara University champions. So everyone knows that this is a school that is just down to business, but at the same time, it's like it was such a good environment to be welcomed into, and everyone was able to succeed with that environment.
Yeah, like you talk about, as a player, that's kind of what you wish for, right? Hope for, when you go into a team, into a new environment, and seeing like, man, this is going to be my family, for the next 4 years. And like you said, that journey starts, your first days when you're there, but that journey is 4 years. So it's a long time that you're really going to meet and see like all the girls and hang out with everybody and really focus on what you guys want as a group and as a team. And so not only do you have, the transition into getting into the school and, meeting everybody, but you also have obstacles that you face as a player. And most of us, or at least some of us, have gone injured or have faced any type of, obstacle. And so if you can tell me a little bit about what obstacles did you face and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, so I have been faced with 2 pretty major obstacles in terms of injuries. My junior summer, I tore my ACL in an ECNL game on Force. And at that point, I had already committed. So a nervous like feeling went over me, thinking like, oh my gosh, I cannot even think about telling Santa Clara about my injury. But when I got off the phone with the coaches, they were just so comforting and telling me that this happens and just to take my time and not rush through the process. And I got through that recovery and was ready for preseason going into freshman year of university. And then my senior year at Santa Clara University, I tore my other ACL. So both were at very interesting times as I was going into my almost into freshman year at university. And then the other one was going into what I wanted to be pro season right after university. So I actually tore it in my second one in my game before my senior day. So that was a bunch of emotions hitting at once. And I had planned my whole, what's it called? My whole setup was planned from freshman year of my classes and everything. So, and being able to graduate early so I could go into the draft and possibly go to NWSL tryouts. But when that happened and then COVID happened, it was kind of like that time wasn't my time to go pro. And looking back at it now, I believe, and I've always tried to stand by everything happens for a reason. When I did it at the end of my junior year of high school, maybe that was a time for me to get stronger and fitter and just kind of focus on myself before going into university. And that worked out great. And then coming off of it, after my senior year of college, again, I came back from that with a bunch of help at Santa Clara from Sean and also in LA at Elite Orthosport. I was able to come back from that recovery and find this amazing opportunity in Iceland. So although I've experienced these obstacles and setbacks, there are so many positives that came out of it. And without that setback, I wouldn't have achieved, I believe, anything that I have so far. And I think it's just all part of the process. And when you have that, you have to think about it that way, or else you're going to go down. So you got to be positive.
Definitely when you get injured, as a player, the mental side obviously takes a toll. And if you're not mentally strong, it can make or break, especially your journey and your career. And like you said, everything happens for a reason. God has a plan on where we go, on where the path that he takes us on. Like you said, your junior year, yeah, maybe it was time for you to take a break. Hey, DB, take your, obviously it wasn't what you wanted to happen, but happened for a reason. Like you said, even now, you tore right before you're planning on going to play, and it's COVID hit, and now it's okay, now I got time to recover and to really focus again on myself and seeing all right, these are the things that I need to work on, and this is how I want to build as a player. And so a lot of respect, for you going to that. That's amazing, because it's not hard. Any injury is tough. And even like you said, what you did, those are injuries that some players don't even come back from. So much respect for you on that part. And so I'm so happy to see where you're at now, and gonna get into, your pro debuts and your contract and you signing. If you can tell me now, going through all this and that whole process of being injured and coming out now and seeing okay, I still have, that fire burning inside me to wanting to play, and now getting your first contract. If you can tell me a little bit about what was going on in your head, what was going on when you're talking to, the team and your agent and whatnot, if you can tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, as I said before, playing professional soccer has always been my dream. And there was never a time where I doubted it. And when I was graduated from Santa Clara and stopped with soccer, and I could start getting my agent and get opportunities coming in, I was towards the middle of my recovery. I'm with A&V Sports Management, and my agent is actually one of my family friends. So I was able to talk comfortably with like my process and where I was at. And I actually got a opportunity sent my way from Santa Clara, someone who reached out to Santa Clara University, which then was in contact with my agent. But when I first was brought to it, I was like, wow, an island off of an island. I'm a 30-minute ferry ride from Iceland on an island of 45 or 4,300 people. So when I first got it, I was like, wow, that is like so far from what I even imagined. But at the same time, as I was like, when would I ever regret playing professional soccer in the Premier Division, in the Pepsi Max League in Iceland, and living on an island where I've heard the community is like this. So when that opportunity came to me after finally recovering from my ACL, I took time to think about it, but then I was all in. And I think when opportunities like this come to you, you definitely have to think about it, because you're going to be living there for like 9 months for a whole season, and it's far from home. So that was something that came across my mind. But at the same time, it's like, you never want to regret passing an opportunity like this. And you got to start somewhere, even if it's not the picturesque like place that you want to be in your thought or in your dream that you've always thought about. When I arrived here, it was just like, everything looks fake. It's so beautiful here. And if I didn't take this opportunity, like, I don't think I would have ever even known about this island off of Iceland. And yeah, I'm just like eternally grateful for this first opportunity and where I am right now.
No, I definitely am very happy for you and where you're at, because it is, a new journey that you don't know nothing about. Like you said, you didn't even know about this island. So even seeing, the contract and knowing like, man, like this is where I'm going to go. I mean, you're making the best out of it. I mean, you're balling out there. You're scoring goals. I mean, like I spoke about a little bit, you scored 11 goals in 11 games, including the cup game. So you're doing what you need to do to succeed as a professional player. And that's kind of what it is, adapting to new places, adapting to new teams, wherever you go, knowing like, hey, like I'm going to put in my all. And so if you, now having been there for a while and playing, scoring goals, how is that for you? How was, the game out there? I mean, you're also able to have your family out there, which is great. I know how close you are with them. So that's amazing to hear. So if you can tell me a little bit now about now playing, like how is it playing professionally, something that you dreamed for all your life and now really having the opportunity to do it?
Yeah, I'm just like I said earlier, I'm so thankful to be where I am right now. And it's a very like you never know what to expect, like going into a professional team your first year. And I, from the moment I stepped out here, I loved the environment. I loved just how everything was set up, training, the professionalism, and the fact that like I'm living here and I'm playing the sport I love, and I'm getting to explore an amazing country is crazy to even think about. But I'm a part of a very talented team, and I've enjoyed every moment I've been on the field. There's been obviously with every season there's ups and downs. Having my parents out here was a dream come true. They are my number one supporters, so having them be able to watch 3 games was super great. Hearing them in the stands was awesome. I want them back already. But yeah, I am just, it's honestly a shock. Like every time I'm walking out around on this island, I'm like, I think it's crazy that I'm living here. And sometimes I'm like, someone pinch me, because the world here is just, it's so beautiful. At home, it's just such a different culture, and I've learned so much from this culture and in football and out of football. So I've loved every moment of it, and yeah.
That's great to hear, and that's awesome being able to explore and really see, you know, different side of the world, and having soccer being that reason, it just makes it even better. Like you said, you're playing the sport you love, and you're doing what you love, and you're able to travel. And so I'm gonna talk a little bit about your first game and then your first goal. Like, how was that for you? Because I know it, you know, for some people it takes like time to score goals and whatnot. You know, you get jittery, you just get nervous. I know I was nervous when I played my first game, and sometimes as a forward too, goals don't come. But like for you, how was your first game? You can tell me a little bit about that and what you were feeling.
Yeah, so our first game, well, we played in a few friendlies before our cup game. And that allowed me to kind of understand how players play and connect a little bit more on the field. And going into our first cup game, I was pumped, was ready to win. We actually were down 3-0 at halftime. Yeah, 3-0 at halftime. And I was like, gosh, I am not, in a way, like as a striker, you feel you have a lot of pressure to be the scorer. And when you're down 3-0, it's like you know what you need to do in the next half or in the next moment to help your team get that W. And we got a very good halftime talk, came out on fire. And the first goal that I scored in that game was just like a shock in my entire body, like a shock wave. And I was just like, let's go. Like this is the feeling that I live for. And it was just a rush of joy. And like my biggest thing is to play with joy. And that was just like affirmation of like, this is what I'm supposed to do in life. And this is what gives me like the most happiness. So my first goal was just amazing. And I think what's like motivated me to keep scoring for our team is just to get that feeling and get that happiness out of my teammates around me, and get those 3 points so we can continue going forward. We ended up coming back and winning 4-3 that game. I scored a hat trick in that game. So that was a good debut. For sure.
Yeah, no big deal, right? Just scored a hat trick on my debut. Nothing big.
Yeah,
No,
that was a
that's
good game.
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, like you said, those are the feelings that we live for as athletes in anything that we do. I mean, being able, like you said, scoring a goal, that feeling you got, and to know like, hey, like I'm here, you know, I'm here to stay. Like this is my stamp on this league, and you're doing that. And so I'm so happy for you. And if you can tell me a little bit about like what's next for you, like what do you plan on doing after this season? Are you planning on staying? I know you probably can't tell me much about it, but where do you see yourself, and where do you see yourself in the following years?
Yeah, so I don't have an answer to that question. I have no idea where I'm going next. And obviously not something I can really talk about in terms of like decisions right now. But what I've learned is, and what I've been trying to practice a lot, is just staying in the moment. From experience, I've found that looking too far ahead and focusing on the future kind of takes you away from the present moment and focusing on like the small steps, and really working hard and achieving the things you want to achieve day by day. What I can say is that my dream is to play for the Canadian national team. That's my goal. So whatever step I take next is the next step towards that end goal. And that's what my decision making will be based on. So
Definitely can't wait to see you on that Canadian team scoring goals, and seeing you there. and that's amazing. You having those goals obviously gives you that extra fuel of knowing like, yeah, this is what I want, and this is what I'm gonna do to push for that. This is the end result that where I want to be, and so I'm gonna fight until I get it. And so I know for sure you'll be there one day. So I'm not worried, and I'm not worried at all. Yeah, I know you're gonna be scoring goals for the team soon. So
Thank you.
a little bit about now, like all the success that you've had so far at a young age, from making certain teams, ECNL to Santa Clara University to now being pro. I mean, who do you credit your success to?
Yeah, I mean, I can't even count on my hands and like my fingers and toes how many people I owe my success to. At first, my family, they're literally my backbone and have never doubted me and give me unconditional support from the very beginning. So them first off. Jeff Beicher from DeAnza Force Soccer, he started developing me as a player and as a person from the very beginning. And I also, at Santa Clara University, Jerry Smith, and every single coach and person a part of that program. It's a very family-oriented community that I was so lucky to be a part of, in addition to how amazing of a soccer program it is. And Sean, the athletic trainer at Santa Clara University, he was the beginning of my ACL recovery at the end of my senior year. He helped and got me to where I am today, along with Elite Orthosport in Los Angeles. And Dr. Timothy McAdams did both my ACLs at Stanford. So amen to him. He is a blessing and an amazing surgeon. So I probably missed like so many names just because I've been surrounded by so many great people who have supported me. And that's something I'm so grateful for. And just want to say thank you to anyone who's watching this, who has supported me and helped me and pushed me to where I am today. So, yeah.
Definitely having that support, day in and day out, through the ups and downs is amazing. I mean, we have it when we're at our peak, but it's even more important when we're, at our lowest points, especially as you talked about with your ACL tears. I mean, that for you was for sure your lowest points, where you're just, as an athlete, especially, you don't know where to turn, like this is all you've been doing your whole life. So it's like, what do I do? Like, how can I get better? I mean, I want to get back on the field, so put me in, but it doesn't work that way. So it's amazing to have that support system that you can call family from everywhere that you went. As an athlete, that's what we are blessed with, and like you said, how important your family is to you. I mean, that's also something that has helped you. You're able to call your parents, when things go good or things go bad. I mean, that's amazing to have as well. And so now for a little bit of joy, like tell me like a goal that you scored, or like a game that you played in that you have in the back of your head, like a final, or like maybe it was that hat trick that you scored your first game. But like if you have one, like I don't know, a bike that you scored or something, like what game was that, if you can tell me, or experience that you've had that you can give us a little bit on?
That's a really hard question.
You might have a few, I don't know, but if you have
Yeah.
one or two, like that's fine. But
Yeah.
just a little bit of good moments that you've had.
Well, one of my favorite goals, I'd say, was against Portland. It was a home game, and I had a cross in from Kelsey Turnbow, and my back to goal. I was on the right side of the 18, and I took a touch across like mid in the air, and then I turned the player on my back and I volleyed it into the upper hand corner. And that was just like probably my favorite goal I've scored so far. And then in pro, I'd say my favorite goals were probably against Breidablik. They're known to be the top club in our league in Pepsi Max, and we ended up beating them 4-2. And my first goal was a header, and I love headers. I love balls in the air. It's like I'm so hungry for those. So that cross in, and the goalkeeper missed it. She jumped too early, and I just banged it in with my head. And then the second goal was an amazing through ball by my teammate Olga, and it was just me and the keeper. I was on the left side of the goal. She came out, and I chipped her with the inside of my left foot in the upper V, and that was sick. Just because it was kind of like, we're here, EBFF is here to beat Breidablik. It was a home game, and it was kind of just a message to the rest of the league that, like, this team has talent, because we played so well that game. And I think that feeling was just great, because like a lot of our island was at that game just cheering us on. So it was great.
I mean, you probably had that whole island there watching you guys play that.
Yeah, honking their horns in the car. Yeah, it's great.
That's awesome. I mean, those are the moments that we dream of, and we're going to talk about for the rest of our lives as athletes. So good for you, and can't wait to hear more about, later on, your success that you're going to have with that team. And so, now having so much experience with the sport and in life in general, on and off the field, I mean, what advice would you give to your younger self about the journey you've taken so far?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I would have told my younger self is that everything happens for a reason, whether that's associated with soccer or not. Everything put in my way, or everything that I achieve, is for a reason. And I think when you're at a young age, you constantly are trying to think of things that you need to do, but sometimes they're just out of your control. And I think that definitely in university, you get caught in trying to figure things out that are totally out of your control, and it takes you away from the present. So I think advice to my younger self would definitely be that, hey, if you have a setback, if there's an obstacle in your way, like, this is happening for a reason. You got to figure out why it's happening and what you need to do to overcome it. You'll find out later the real reason about why. When it first happens, you kind of have to think about, why is this happening, just to get you through it. But you won't figure out the real reason of why it's happening till 2 years, 2 years later, or a year later. So I think that is probably the biggest advice I would give, is that everything happens for a reason, and to never doubt yourself, and to never think that things are happening to you to kind of give you a sense of, like, this isn't for you. Like, if that's your dream, you got to go for it. You got to go against all odds and keep pushing. So yeah, that would probably be my advice.
Yeah, I mean, knowing that certain things in our lives, are not, we can't control them, and so being able to control those controllables later on, just knowing, like, hey, like, all right, time to pick up my head and fight for what I want. Sometimes, like you said, those things obviously is not what we wish for, of course, as athletes, especially when it comes to injuries, but you got to really see the other side of the coin, right? And know that the grass is greener on the other side, like they say, and know, okay, this happened now, but how do I overcome this? And what do I need to do to become better or become stronger? And know, like, okay, this is it. Like, I'm not going to let this, drag me down or pull me down at all, because it takes, a lot of mental strength as an athlete to know and go through injuries. I mean, there's so many athletes that get mentally broken down and don't even end up playing. I mean, going through 2 ACLs, I mean, you would think that, damn, like, what else do I have to go through, and like, what else do I have to do to prevent that? But it just happens sometimes. But you're able to see, like, dang, like, this happened and it happened again, but let me just grow from it. Let me just find ways to become better. And I applaud you for that, because that's tough, and it's hard to go through that, especially twice, let alone once. So
Thank you.
and so now we were talking about a little bit about you playing in Iceland, and I mean, the language is different out there. I know that some players speak English and stuff, but tell me how it is to like play with the team. I mean, does the coach speak English? I mean, I know when I was playing abroad as well, like there's the coach, some of the coaches never spoke English to me. Like I was always had someone, translate a little bit. And so how is that for you playing on the field, like trying to rally everybody on the team? Like, how is that for you?
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, it was definitely challenging. I think Icelandic is probably the hardest language I've ever heard, and tried to pronounce. The letters next to each other are just not what my mouth is accustomed to speaking. But I think that especially we have 5 players who are from Latvia, we have 1 from Germany, but she's fluent in English. And then the rest are Icelandic, and most of them can speak English, but if they're not forced to, and if they don't need to, then they're speaking Icelandic. So sometimes you're just kind of sitting there like, all right, what are you guys talking about? Like, you have no idea what's going on. And then you kind of just nudge the person beside you and you're like, yo, like, what's happening right now? And then there's a translator. But our coach, fluent in English and in Icelandic. So he'll say things like if a player is better in Icelandic, like he'll point them out and be like, he'll say it in Icelandic, and then he'll talk to the rest of the team and in English. So I've been lucky to be in a place where the language barrier isn't like completely constricting me from understanding anything, because everyone here can speak English. It's just if they want to choose to or not at the certain time. But it took me a while to even pronounce my team's name, just because it's hard to say also on the field. So I've just been learning how to say "come on" in Icelandic and "let's go." So those 2 I can say, which is "Komasvau" and "Afram," and then anything else, like people understand what you're trying to say, but you have to go slower, because if someone isn't as good as English, like you need to talk a bit slower, which makes total sense. Like I'm just like applauding them for their language, because I think it's like 10 times harder than ours. But it's been good. It's better than I thought it was going to be. So that's
Definitely.
good.
I mean, you definitely get to see like, damn, like this is totally different from what I'm used to. Like this is not something that I was even thinking of coming into, and so getting to play in that type of environment, you're like, wow, like now I really have to adapt, to this language, and knowing how to say, like, hey, like pass me the ball, because even that's different, and so I want to thank you. I mean, for taking your time. I know you're in season, like I said before, and being able to chat a little bit about your journey and seeing like all the obstacles that you had to go through, and also see all the success that you've had so far. I mean, I want to thank you so much for being part of this week's, episode of the hashtag Let's Kick It series. And so thank you so much, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Edson.
Us.
Thank you for having me, and I'm happy to be a part of it. I've been watching along on your series and episodes, and they've been great. So I'm happy and honored to be the series this week. And good luck to you and your PMP, and also with this series. And thanks again. It was nice to hear from you.
Like I said again, thank you for being on the show, and wish you nothing but the best. For those who joined, thank you for coming back. Tune in next week. We'll have another professional athlete be with us on the hashtag Let's Kick It series. Nothing but the best for DB. I know she's going to score a lot of goals, and can't wait for that.